Hey, and welcome to Property Mastermind podcast with Hilary Saxon. Today talking how property investing, getting people to invest in your property developments, how you do it, and a lot of really interesting information around what you need to do to find yourself a great investor. So let's jump into episode 35 with Bob Andersen. Hey, welcome to episode 35. As I said, property investors, getting them to invest in your property development. But before we get started, giving away a copy of Property Millionaires Exposed. Of course, Bob's one of the authors in this fine book. If you'd like to win yourself a copy, remember to comment favourably, either on one of the podcasts or even on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that too. We've got a lot of really interesting, fabulous stuff coming up in YouTube this year from Property Mastermind. But anyway, today goes to Scott Belliot. Scott reached out to me today and we had great conversations. So, hey, Scott, one of these coming in the post to you. Welcome aboard to Property Mastermind. Anyway, let's talk. Hey, Bob. Good to see you again in the podcast room.
Yeah, back in the podcast room. So this is our first recording for 2022, in that we're in the studio. But it's not the first release, is it?
No, we went helpfully, though, if you're allowed to say that on the podcast, prior to Christmas to get a few out until now. So, yeah, first time back, and it's January the 21st, I think. Isn't it today?
Oh, something like that.
Anyway, we've finally made it back here and we're like, it's time to jump back on that podcast horse.
Back on the podcast horse, off all the other horses we've been on.
Yeah, back onto this one.
I just noticed you've still got a little bit of paint there.
Paint in my hair. He's pointing to paint in my hair for those of you who are listening to this.
Sorry about that.
Yes, well, there's a story behind that. We got the SOS call from Bob's daughter and son-in-law because he's not allowed to paint the son-in-law because he's not very good at it.
Shocker.
And he gets it everywhere.
Can't let him near a brush or a roller.
No, so...
Great on the carpentry and tiling and everything else.
Isn't he
just
amazing?
keep him away from a brush.
Well, we ended up going down and I did one full day and Bob did 3. So he's the man that builds retirement villages. He's mentoring students building duplexes and townhouses and all sorts of things all over the country. And then just picks up a paintbrush and paints solidly with his daughter for 3 days. How cool's that?
Yeah, I feel like a full-time painter who has a part-time job building retirement villages or something. But yeah, pretty good. It's good to be able to help the kids out, hey?
Absolutely. That I ended up with some of my hair and it's still there. And I actually didn't know how to get it out.
You're a demon on a roller, I've got to say.
Yeah, I actually love painting.
There was 2 of us cutting and you were rolling and we thought, yeah, okay, well, we'll keep up. No way in the world. You just headed off. You
Bob,
disappeared in the distance.
23 Renos, please. I love painting.
Oh, I know. You do. You're a great painter.
But anyway, I took a few notes this time.
Should try using a brush for a roll instead of your hair next time, then.
Yeah, okay. I'll give that a go. Great idea. Great words of advice, Bob. Thank you. But anyway, how do you feel about today's topic?
I think it's a great topic. I think it's one that a lot of people would be interested in.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, we've been getting some great feedback. Thanks, Tanya, too. Tanya put a big comment on our website underneath the last episode. It's great when you get feedback from people because we know people like it, but it's always good to know. So thank you so much, Tanya, for writing what you did. I even put a reply under there. But you're right. So it was about just the way we handheld and incrementally teaching her how to do property development.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I love to read all those.
Yes.
It only takes a few minutes. Jump on, say something.
So, looking for investors.
Well, yeah.
For your property development. So, you're looking for investors for your property development.
I suppose the obvious question is why? Why would you be looking for investors for your property development? And the most common reason would be that somebody just doesn't have enough financial clout to do a development in their own right. They need some help. They might need equity, cash typically. They might need a hand with serviceability or both. And if you just can't do it on your own. My idea is, if you don't have enough financial clout, I'll call it, to do a property in your own right with your own finances, then get an investor involved because, you'll end up making at least half the profit, if not more, depending on how you structure it. Damn sight better than making nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that would be typically the main reason why people would want an investor.
Sometimes they want to do more than one. So maybe they've started property developing and then they get to a point where they want to get their finance out to move on to another deal. And so, they get an investor in at that point.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, even if somebody has enough money to do their own development, why not do another one with somebody else's? And instead of just making a profit from one, you might make 1.5 profits or whatever it is. So, but using investors to help finance your development, I guess that's what we're talking about today.
And we're going to cover how you find them and maybe the process that you go through once you get an investor. That's probably that's actually I'm actually thinking this podcast is going to get really long. We'll have to cap it. We'll have to pull it back because
could be a 2-part one.
It could be. It is a big topic, isn't it?
Well, as you know, like I can spend up to half a day just talking about fancy ways of financing projects. In fact, I do on some events. So there is a lot to it.
Yeah.
But so different structures, different ways of using investors in your project. And of course, at the end of the day, you've got to find some. But just thinking, I did mention structure. To me, there's 2 main structures, if you like, or models to use incorporating investors in your development. One of them is what I call an equity partner. So that's where somebody would come into the project, they'd put money into the project, often on a joint venture basis. So both yourself, the developer and the investor are in the project. You might well be on the title of the land together, probably be on the loan together. Because of your skills as a developer, you would manage the project. And at the end, you'd share the profit in some agreed ratio. That's what I call an equity partner. In the deal with you, developer, boots and all in the deal. The other way is what we call a loan partner, as you well know, Hilary, because you are the loan partner on a few projects, I happen to know.
You do happen to know.
Yeah. And a loan partner is not part of the project in the respect that they're not on the title, they're not on the loan, it's not a joint venture, they're not in their boots and all with you.
They're often referred to as a money partner.
Yeah.
And in our communities, they might be referred to as an MP. Yeah. In the acronym world.
Yeah, sometimes a money partner. I call them a loan partner more than a money partner, because sometimes people think of money partners being equity partners and they're in the deal and it all gets too confusing. So what I call a loan partner, I use the word loan because that's what they do. They actually loan you the money from the outside of the project. So they're not part of it, as I said, not on the title, not on the loan. They simply lend you money. And their reward is not a share of the profits. Typically, their reward is an interest rate return on their money. So they're the 2 main structures, just to keep it simple. Now, equity partner in the deal, loan partner external to the deal. And so people often say to us, don't they? They say, from a developer's point of view, which one should I use? Which model should I use? And my answer to that is, whatever works, because at the end of the day, they serve the same purpose, whether they're an equity partner or loan partner, is they give you a certain amount of money, cash, equity generally, and that enables you then to go to the bank and borrow the rest of it. So banks don't lend you 100% of all your costs. You have to put some in yourself. You might be putting in, 25 or 30% of the cost yourself, and the bank would be putting in 70 or 75. So it's usually, where does that first chunk of money come from? If you don't have it yourself, well, you've got to get it from an investor.
And we have plenty of people come into our community and straight away are developing with other people's money. And if you are looking for investors, the investors sometimes have different criteria that they want. So it's like matching yourself with what somebody else is after.
It's sort of like a dating.
It is a bit like dating
in a way.
Yes, because we have a lot of people come to us and say, "Oh, I've got X amount of money. I'd like to invest in a project, or we've got a project, or Bob's got the retirement village. That's one opportunity, and then sometimes people want a different type of opportunity for that exact reason. For what they're looking for." And so I just ask them, actually I used the words this morning. I said if I could if I could sprinkle some fairy dust all over you and you could have whatever you want, what would it be? And that's to find out what they're looking for. And then if I've got somebody looking for that, then you can match them up.
Yeah, and that's important.
Because there's all sorts, eh? I mean, there's lots. There's short-term, long-term.
Different structures suit different people.
Yes.
I mean, some people, for instance, don't want to be involved, boots and all, in a development where they're, on the title, they're on the loan to the development. They're happy to inject capital into it, but they don't want to be in their boots and all. And that type of arrangement would suit a loan partner, where they're just lending externally to the project and they're getting a return on the capital. Some people might have a self-managed super fund, and they've got cash in their super fund, but they're getting a lousy return, at the bank. And so they're looking for a better return on their capital. They don't, particularly if they're using self-managed super fund money, they can't really get involved directly in a development. There are ways you can do it indirectly through trusts and so forth, but they don't. All they want is a better return than what the banks are giving, and so that would suit a loan partner. Those sorts of people. There's others who are happy to get involved. Like a profit share, maybe even want to learn a bit from being involved in a project, and they tend to sway more towards what we call the equity partner one. So but that's what you do. I mean, you do the investor liaison. Is that another one of your hats? Can we say?
I think it might be. We have never actually talked about
it.
Given
you a title on that? No,
not on that one. No, I just thought I was
Well, you're not just the performance coach at Property Mastermind.
I feel like I'm I don't know.
Way more than that.
Yeah.
So you often speak to the investors first up, people that contact us through our profile or whatever about investing in projects, and so you're the gatekeeper, I guess. Or that's probably not the best word, but
I probably am. Like the person I spoke to this morning, I actually said, we don't just throw you out to the wolves. We would only, put them into
wolves out there.
Plenty of wolves, yeah. We would only put you with somebody who, like, you are overseeing the deal because they're in our mentoring program. Like it's just don't want to be responsible for other people's money because, that's a topic in itself. Like property development done by someone who isn't too sure of themselves or have some bad luck. Can go wrong. And when they go down and lose money, they lose your money.
Well, let's be honest, you can make a lot of money out of property development, but you can lose money if you don't do it properly.
Absolutely.
And not everybody does it properly for a whole heap of reasons.
Let's say one, they don't get educated.
Well,
check out propertymastermind.com.au.
Fair enough too, because that's probably the biggest reason, So, if you've got somebody investing with a developer, that's one of the things they'd want to check out. What's the experience of this developer? Or alternatively, which is often the case with us, is there somebody of experience overviewing the property, overviewing that development?
The project itself.
The project, yeah. Like if people, we've got an investment open at the moment, sort of an ongoing investment with the retirement village that we're doing, and so we take investors on board on that particular project, which is run by myself, and so that's, in terms of experience, that's pretty safe experience.
I don't know. Is 38 years enough?
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's not my first retirement village either.
Oh, is that? No, exactly. This is not your first rodeo.
No. And so that's an investment that we're doing. But alternatively, it's, we have people within our mentoring program who sometimes need an investor. So the investor would get the benefit in that case of me also overviewing the project, because it's not just the person doing it who's in our mentoring program, but I'm there all over it. So sort of by proxy, they get me as well. And so that's good. But
I've seen Bob go on a meeting with a mentoring student with their town planner because the person didn't quite know what to say. I know you like to empower people to do it yourself, but I've seen you do that. So you are holding hands a lot.
Yeah. Well, I teach people how to deal with various consultants, and I'd rather they just follow the instructions and do it. But look, on the odd occasion I have. On the odd occasion I've jumped on the phone with an architect or a town planner or a financier. Even one or a couple of times even with investors. to give them some comfort as well, you know. That can happen.
And I think there's also, and we have to say this out loud because we've had a number of phone calls. There is also the odd dishonest person out there. There actually is. That does.
Yeah, sadly, that's the downside of it from an investor's point of view or from the developer's point of view. Some projects don't go as planned, shall we say, and therefore an investor who has funds in there, they can be put at risk when a project doesn't go the way it should go. Sometimes that's just inexperience, lack of knowledge from the developer. But sadly, there are some people out there that seem to be popping up a few times who don't go into the whole using investors' funds in the right way, shall we say. Yeah. That happens. So same old thing, you know, same with any investment. You've got to do your due diligence and you've got to make a call on it.
And don't just take somebody's word for what they say. You need to check out their credibility. You actually need to, it doesn't matter, just check them out. So if you are approached, I mean, we're actually working on the other way around. So if you are a property developer looking for investors, make sure this is people's hard-earned money. And it's really sad when we hear people come to us after the fact and they've lost money. It's like, oh no, it's not a happy place.
Yeah, I mean, we get the odd phone call from just people out there because they see our profile, they see us on YouTube or wherever they see us, and think, oh gosh, maybe this person can help me. And they contact us with their sad tale, and I often get shocked at the naivety of a lot of people and what they don't look at when they do invest. So that can happen.
Right. So if you are, you know what you're doing, and you've got a property development and you'd like to get an investor, let's talk about some ways that people can find investors. Yeah.
So I mean, you could start close to home. And look, this doesn't suit everybody. When I say close to home, I'm talking about friends and relatives and possibly even work colleagues into that category, but particularly friends and relatives. There's no right or wrong here. I have some people who say, I definitely would not do a joint venture with a friend or a relative because if it didn't go well, I'd feel terrible, I've got to see the relatives all the time. I've got to see my friends all the time. I'd feel terrible. I'd be devastated.
Crikey.
And therefore they don't ask friends or relatives. They look for people they don't know. And that's there's nothing right or wrong about that. It's just an attitude that they have.
I would prefer to go to somebody I know. I would much prefer that, wouldn't you?
Well, the other side of the equation is you could look at it like that. That was a negative outlook. And you have to look at it, What happens if things go wrong? And if things go wrong, I don't want to friends or relatives. But the other side of it is, well, forget about things going wrong. Do it right. And then help your friends and relatives. I can think of a young couple who joined our mentoring program, probably 5 years ago. They would have been in their 30s. And the reason they joined was to help their parents financially.
Yeah.
Because their parents had reached or just about reached retirement age, but didn't have much of a nest egg at all. And this is a bit of a reversal because quite often parents help their children get a leg up, and that's a great thing to do as well. Hence the pain in your hair. Thanks. But here's a younger couple wanting to get involved and help their parents out financially so that they would have a better retirement.
Yeah, how nice.
Yeah. So, and look, as you know,
So did they get investors? Did they get investors in?
Well, their parents had a bit of money, but they did a number of projects with investors as well.
Right. Okay.
So that sort of went two ways. One, they did quite well financially, therefore they were able to give funds to their parents. And their parents were a little bit nervous, but they did use equity that their parents had in their house to do a deal that went well, of course. And so they were. So that's a different attitude. That's helping relatives as opposed to being too scared in case things go wrong. There's no right or wrong about that. It's just how you feel. Yeah. So
and other places you can, like Bob alluded to, like friends, family, work colleagues. But it's just conversations. If you're a property developer and you're confident in what you're doing, then it's conversations that you have when you're out. People always ask, what what do you do? Well, I do. I even say, well, I'm a property developer.
Yeah.
And it actually happened on Saturday night. That actually happened on Saturday night. We were out and somebody was asking me about investing, in fact. Yes. So people get interested when you say, what you do and how do I do that, and how can they be involved in that. And I can quite legitimately say that I'm also an investor in other people's projects. So, and that is interesting. And I'm an investor in the retirement village. So it opens a whole conversation of how does that work, and then people are like, oh, I want to do that. Like, how do I get involved in that? I've got some money. So so just being out and having conversations about what you do.
And don't be afraid to say what you do.
No.
People sometimes ask me what I do. I don't say I'm a property developer.
What do you say? What do you, Bob?
I just say, look, I make people wealthy using property development as a vehicle.
Yeah.
Which is true. And any investors that are involved in a project I'm doing, they do well. Therefore, I make people wealthy. I make money for people. Make money for myself too. Why not? But and I teach that. I teach people how to make good money out of property development. So using property development as a vehicle. It's just a vehicle for making money. Property development. Don't get too emotional about it. I haven't found a better one. Otherwise, I'd be doing that.
You'd be starting that vehicle.
Nearly 40 years later, I'm still driving the same old vehicle. But it's a good vehicle. That one never breaks down. Just goes better and better. So moving away from friends and relatives to outside of that,
and having conversations,
and telling people what you do. I mean, you never know. You could be sitting back in the chair getting your teeth drilled, and in between rinsing your mouth, you could be talking to the dentist about what you do. It's amazing, like over the years, where I've met investors, like school reunions and barbecues, and like all sorts of places where you wouldn't expect to, but doing exactly what you just said, just chatting with people and finding out what they do.
It's interesting, Bob. Like you think of Georgia, who does our marketing. She was having a conversation with her friend's dad, and he was like, oh, how do I get involved? Can you send me some information on that? So that was just her saying, he was asking what she did, and she said what she did, and then she was explaining stuff, and he was interested. So it's such an interesting topic that people are interested, and if they have money and they want to invest, then they will invest with you. But the other thing is that we can't discount is we all know somebody with money. So if you had a conversation with somebody and then they said, they looked for investors to invest in their property development, you sort of tuck that up your sleeve. Well, I do. I love connecting people. And I'd be thinking, wow, I should tell Mary and Joseph that.
Yeah.
Funny choice of names there. Funny choice of names there. But anyway, don't know where that come from.
Well, anyone who can turn water into wine probably doesn't need too much money.
Anyone who can turn water into wine is a good friend of mine, Bob.
I want to do a joint venture with that person.
I want to do it. Me too.
So, you go beyond that. It's okay, so people you don't know. And there's a lot of ways. Look, you think about investors who might want to invest. Where collectively might you find them? And you think, like, there's a number of property platforms, Facebook groups and pages and that sort of thing where property investors gather and exchange information. That can be a good place. I mean, some of them are free. Some of them are, you have to do a course to sort of get on a restricted one. But there's a number of those around. But think also people like finance brokers. Probably half the people I do business with are investors. They might be normal property investors at the moment, but given the opportunity of getting involved in a development, making a lot more money.
A lot faster,
or even creating property at raw developers' cost. A number of those investors on the books of the finance broker would be interested.
You did that early days, didn't you, Bob?
Yeah.
A lot of your developments where you get investors in and they stock back. A lot of people kept one, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a type of syndicate that I used to do with investors. We used to push out, I don't know, probably $50, $60 million worth of projects a year just using investors' funds. And at the end of it, the investors, rather than take a cash profit, the way it was structured is they get a property at cost. And that suits that sort of investor. And then you've got people like property managers. I mean, all their clients are property investors who own property. So just got to be a bit creative in your head.
Even one of our current mentoring students, he's recently got an investor who's going to be keeping a first option on. Yeah. So yeah, there are. It's just having conversations and being comfortable with what you're talking about.
Yeah, being confident. And I think having the attitude. This is what I've always pushed. Don't have the attitude, I need people's money. I've got to get my hands on some people's money. Look at it from the other view, what you can do for people. And of course, you're the beneficiary as well. Once you have property development knowledge and you understand how to do property developments, think of it as a wonderful source of being able to help other people and help yourself at the same time. Because you'll be able to help people make money who invest in your projects, who otherwise could never do it. They're probably stuck putting money in the bank at less than 1% because that's all they know what to do, you know. Or they just want to buy a passive, investment, which is fine. But I mean, think of it from that point of view of people that you can help. You're going to help these investors. You're going to make money for them that they can't make themselves. They're going to buy property at cost. They're going to get a good interest rate. And in doing so, of course, you help yourself. So I think that's the right attitude to have rather than that, gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah, I think having that confidence to ask, but come to it from a place of heart where it's genuine, where you're actually helping somebody. So the other side to it that we also teach people is to be professional about it. Like you rock up to someone at a barbie half trashed and say, mate, like seriously, no one's going to take you seriously. And it's really important that you are professional in your maybe your look, or you've got yourself a website that explains what you do so people can look you up, especially if they don't know you outside of there.
Well, that's what happens these days, isn't it? If you want to know something about somebody, you just Google up their name.
Absolutely. Look at your LinkedIn profile.
Good, bad, or whatever, it'll pop up. So, yeah, I mean, from a developer's point of view, if you want to attract investors, put the investor's hat on. I mean, they've got money to invest, but they want it to be safe, and they want to obviously come out of it, get their money back and make a profit. So they want to invest their money in somebody who looks professional, looks like they know what they're doing. And so much of that comes off the back of the collateral, be it website, LinkedIn profile, Facebook, whatever it is. You're the expert on that, Hills, because you help our mentoring students who want to use investors' funds to build a profile. So
just help them set up what I call it the back end. But it's just so people, you're professional people. You're offering a professional service. You need to come across as professional. And I don't think people really realise what stays on out there in the sphere. Yeah, you've just got to be very careful. If you're professional, be professional.
And you've got to look the goods. Perception's everything.
Yeah, but you've got to be the goods as well. You can't look good and be bad.
No. You've often heard me, Hilary, say to people, like, let's just say I was at a barbecue and bumped into somebody and we got talking. And I said, they asked me what I do, and I don't say I'm a property developer. I help make people wealthy through using property development as a vehicle. And the conversation went on. And they said, could be interested in this. And I said, can I have some more details about you? And if I then just tore off the corner of a serviette and wrote down my name, my mobile number, and said, give us a call sometime.
And just go through the wash.
They go through the wash. But it doesn't look like, if the best somebody can do is tear off the corner of a napkin, and scribble down a mobile number, you start thinking, I'm not so sure if I want to invest with that person. That could be me, with 40 years of experience and it's $1.something billion worth of projects. But I look terrible, and I probably wouldn't go much beyond the corner of the serviette.
I'll give you a hot tip. If you want somebody's details, you say to them, actually, let me take your details and I'll get back to you, because like the best of intentions, we all think, I'll give that person a ring, and we don't do it. But if you're serious about your business and somebody does express interest, you can usually say, hey, look, I've got a business card. It's my last one. Do you mind if I write your number and I'll give you a call tomorrow or perhaps Monday? And that's a really good way of making sure that something does happen.
Yeah, you're in control of it then.
Yeah.
Not hoping that they will or they. Because we know people can get all excited and then forget, or
they drank too much.
Your card goes through the wash.
Yeah, you forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got busy, and then it was too late.
Yeah, so that's what I say. Looking the goods, looking professional. You know, because and you need to be, as you said, you need to be, and you need to act that way, but you need to look that way as well.
And I think something you just covered there, Bob, was, someone says to you, what do you do? You're a very unassuming person. You never sort of make out that you have done the amazing stuff that you've done. You keep it all really small. So you never really know who you're meeting.
No, you don't.
Look at our homeless friend that we met, who isn't actually homeless. We thought he was homeless, and he lives in the nicest penthouse around where we live. But you just never know somebody's backstory. So never discount anybody. You never know where somebody's at who might be potentially interested. An investor doesn't look like anything in particular. It could be anybody.
Oh, absolutely. I've used investors on a number of projects where it's been multi-millions of dollars gone in from individuals.
So what's your biggest investment somebody's asked you to invest, or that you've what's the biggest sum you've used of somebody else's in a one lump?
Oh, several million. Not 50 or 100 million, but somewhere up around 5 probably. On some projects I've needed 5 million, and somebody's come in and put 5 million in, one person. That was helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah. That was a...
Don't say dentist. You always talk about dentists.
Oh, no. That was actually a property person who used to have used to run a commercial real estate agency for many years. And so that person understood property. They understood development, even though they weren't a developer. So, they weren't, they didn't win 5 million in Lotto last week. But yeah, that's the sort of thing. I mean, I can remember that particular project. It was 17 townhouses. I just picked it up and one bang, gone. I was going to put a syndicate together for it, and this fellow said, no need. I've checked you out. You checked me out, and he said, I'll give you the 5.
Yeah, how cool. Actually, just hearing you say we checked you out, that happened to one of our mentoring students. Remember that story?
Oh, yeah.
He had a meeting with somebody, and they sat down, he shook hands, and he went to tell the investor about him. I don't know how they'd met each other. And he said, no, it's all good, mate. I've already checked you out. So he'd already gone through his website, he'd gone through his LinkedIn profile, and he had a really good look at him. And he was happy to invest, and he invested on the spot. How good.
Yep.
So that's great. And that guy's gone on to do great things. So
Yeah, so I mean, those larger investors that have got multi-millions are fairly sophisticated. So they're what I like about that sort of a person is they make commercially sound decisions, and they make decisions quickly. They don't, like if you're looking for 50,000, sometimes you can get messed around a bit. Not that I ever look for 50,000, but
no,
that's one thing about so-called sophisticated investors is they're quick to say no, but they're quick to say yes.
And I suppose something else we haven't really covered on is the amount of time sometimes with money partners or loan partners. Often a project can get to a point where it just needs somebody for a short period of time. So sometimes you might only be looking for an investor for, say, 6 months or 5 months, or it doesn't necessarily have to be for the duration of the actual development itself. You never know. So there's all sorts of different types of...
Yeah, different terms, different structures.
And people often come and ask you, and it's like, oh, that's a piece of string, that answer. How long's that piece of string?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it can get complex. I mean, we teach all that sort of stuff, of course, in our courses, and how to deal with people. You teach personality profiling, which probably makes it a lot easier. Just when it comes to dealing with investors, I think you just deal straight up the middle, honestly. Look the goods, understand the project. Always put the other person's hat on. What is that investor? What do they want to see? And
that's gold. What do they want to see? What would they need from me? Yes.
Like if you were going to invest, $300,000 or $400,000, what would you want to see from that developer to make you feel comfortable? Because ultimately you have to do that. There has to be an element of trust that gets built. They have to feel comfortable about investing.
And the good thing is, once you've built that element of trust, and you've got the same thing now, somebody has invested with you, and then they just come back again and again. You can put out an email looking for investors to our community, and you get like so many people responding because you've done it in the past. And that's really what somebody wants. You want to do it well once. You want to get, some good credibility going, and you want to be able to do it again and again.
Build up a good track record.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. I think that's a good podcast. I think we've given out a lot of information there around what you need to do to be looking for investors. I think I might just say from here, we might put the ebook in, which is really coming up from the investor point of view. It'll be in the show notes. So you might want to download that. And that would teach you what an investor is, what needs to know. And that might help you. I think that's a good idea. Pop that in.
Yeah, look, it's great to put on another hat. We wear the developer's hat every day. Well, let's put our investor's hat on and see how an investor would look at investing in a property development. That's
with
the
you.
That's the ebook we did, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll pop that in the show notes. Also, just letting you know that on the 11th, 12th and 13th of February, we do have our Melbourne workshop.
Yay!
This will just be coming out
Finally.
that week, actually, I think. It might be. Oh, maybe it's the week before. But anyway, hopefully if you want to come along, there are a few seats left, not many. Jump online, propertymastermind.com.au. This workshop...
Seats have been going hot.
It's been 6 times postponed, or maybe 7. So it'll have the best energy.
Oh, it will. I'll be going off.
No, this is just going to be the best workshop. Yeah, looking forward to being in Melbourne then. But thanks, Bob, for your, as usual, generosity with information and experience.
Always love doing it.
Okay, guys, catch you next week.
See you. Bye.